Welcome, listeners, to Off the Cuff with Namrita. Glad you've joined me this early on a Sunday morning. And today's program, I hope you connect with it, will be very impactful, I think. So I'll start with a quote which I read recently. It said that you can recognize survivors of abuse by their courage. When silence is so very inviting, they step forward and share their truth so others know they aren't alone. And today I have such guest who is stepping up and telling her story. She has become like an inspiration for many around her. अब जिनका नाम ही वायु हो उनको फिर कौन रोक सकता है, वो तो बेपरवाह ही रहेंगी और बेबाक रहेंगी हमेशा. And I salute her strength and persistence to live her life to the fullest, I'll say. So I'd love to warmly welcome Vaayudhwani to my show. She is an award-winning and upcoming young content producer who is a self-driven entrepreneur and founder of Vaayudhwani Productions. With her keen vision and passion for writing, she embarked on a storytelling journey through various mediums. Professionally, she caters to communication strategy, branding content stories, and photography when she isn't thinking about movies. So welcome Vayu to Off the Cuff.
Thank you so much, Namrita ji. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my honor to be talking to you. So Vayu, when we talked earlier, you did say you um, are a domestic violence survivor. So without much further ado, I would love for you to tell the audience about your childhood and how you grew up with violence around you. If you could touch on that.
Sure.
Mhm.
Not further digging too much into the old stones,
Yes.
I think I really love to sharing some light on how a lot of instances do impact people's lives. And being one of them, to start my childhood addressing or probably starting to kind of, get accustomed to violence happening around you at such an early age, it definitely is a very daunting experience. But so to say, I grew up in a very typical Orthodox family, a Gujarati family, and I patriarchy was obviously a very standard, way of living in India, as you know, in all other cultural norms as well. So growing up, I did not know what it is to identify it at a certain point, but there comes an age where you start noticing and you feel like something is really off about it when you connect with emotions so much. As a child, you just observe what you're looking around in your environment, and I could see that pain in my mother. And there were certain incidences that kind of were always loud and bashing, and suddenly I could see her crying or in agitation or suddenly throwing out her stress on me. And as a child, you don't know how to process this, you just do not know what's going on. But there comes a time when you go through this and you feel like this is extremely brutal to witness in
Mm,
such a young age. And
mm,
uh, till the time it's limited to my mother being uh,
mm,
getting used to this violence every day, or being domesticated, or probably even abused mentally or
mm.
verbally, it
Yeah.
started damaging her morale to a point that I know she's extremely strong as a person, but then there was a point that it started affecting her mentally,
Mm,
her physical health as well. So psychosomatically, by default, it comes to a point that it starts affecting every area of your life.
mm, mm,
So till the point it was okay on my mother, and then I started raising my voice against it because I felt like, what is this? Why is this happening?
mm,
And
mm,
living in a joint family, it's very surprising that nobody's able to take control of the situation.
mm,
And we come from a background where women were not really allowed to speak. They
mm,
don't have a say into things, or the daughters have to be quiet. They don't actually raise their voices. And जैसे वो typical हर घर की कहानी होती है, जैसे sons are like the heirs to taking forward the legacy of the family, but
mm.
daughters are just paraya dhan types.
Okay.
And
Very traditional thinking and
very
conservative.
traditional thinking,
Mm.
very very conservative.
And this you're
Although
talking
I
of, it's not too far back though. ये कब की बात कर रहे हो आप? 2000.
So I think I've been going through this pretty much from the beginning of my life, but then there came a point by 2011 I really had to take a strong stand.
Mm,
So you can
mm,
say it's been almost a
mm,
decade that I've kind of got out of that shackles of that pain. But yeah, so when you see yourself growing up into that environment and consistently, indirectly noticing it and having to experience it on and off,
mm,
it just becomes a part of your life. And that's the reason I think, which I really wanted to talk about, is
mm,
nobody wants to actually make that a part of their lives, because the other side is so used to it. They normalized this into the society, and that is the reality check we started getting when my mother started raising her voice against it since the very beginning. When she found out that my father is abusive and things were really going out of hand,
mm,
she tolerated initially till the time she didn't have kids. But ek time aata hai, everybody feels, oh, now there are children, so the person might mellow down after having kids. But
mm,
no, so there was no way, and she had to speak to her own family and parents about it.
mm,
But the biggest shock
mm,
that arrives later on at such a brutal point is that they say, "Arey, aap adjust kar lo. You have to go and adjust that. It's your home.
mm.
Now you can't like turn back."
घर की
Especially
इज्जत is a
when,
big thing, you know.
exactly, and especially when they are into an arranged marriage setting. You are the ones, you've chosen the person for her, and you just sent her across. And when she's really not happy, forget being happy. When
Mm,
she's in trouble, you do nothing about it.
mm,
So this was something that really took me aback too. And although I was quite young at that point of time, it's only later when I grew up to realize she had kind of left her house and she went to her parents like multiple times talking about this. Now it's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. And nobody did nothing about it.
mm,
And to a point, then she started facing it and accepting that, because she wanted safety for her kids, for us. I
mm,
also have a sibling who's with my dad.
mm,
So, for a mother, her life becomes her children when everything else is lost around. There was no hope left.
mm,
And growing up watching this, of course, being a female, being a woman, you're always connected energetically so strongly to your own mother.
mm,
And I started raising my voice against it, and then I started seeing that rot same, like, being faced on me as well. My father started beating me up or using different things to hit me with, and that definitely was a very traumatic experience. And you just feel, you start becoming aggressive. You do not know how to respond to it, because
mm,
there's no way. The more you try reacting towards it, you
mm,
face further more backlash. And usse ek taraf ki aadat ho gayi thi, but you don't know how to tell other people, because people don't take it seriously, or either they took it pretty lightly. We tried to, there were so many such incidents where the family had to come together and try to stop him. So I think it was unfortunate that in spite of having a wonderful grandfather who tried to curb the situation, he could not.
yeah.
And it was moreover because we identified the issue, the core issue was my grandma. और ये भी आई थिंक काफी लोग रिलेट कर पाएंगे. इट्स अ वेरी टिपिकल घर की कहानी जहाँ पे सास बहू वाला केस होता है.
Mm,
And where a mother-in-law is not accepting of a daughter who comes from another home,
mm,
because her son and her identity or her way of living is more important to a priority,
mm,
right?
mm,
So that domination is something that became a habit. कि
mm,
भाई हमारे तरफ से हमारे हिसाब से नहीं हुआ, then you are in trouble. You need to do what we asked you to do. So I think that was extremely a painful situation to bear with. And I am somebody who's extremely straightforward. I don't know, it probably is in the genes from my mom that I just was born seeing all this pain, and I just kind of fought against everything that was wrong again. And I used to question them. I started being rational of every little thing that went wrong in the house, and it started becoming difficult.
mm,
So I've battled depression from a young age. I've had to go through a lot of health issues myself. So these things really affect you. It affects the entire lifestyle.
absolutely. Yes.
So I was a professional dancer. I
Mm,
was an athlete, and that's exactly what I pursued to take forward as a career, because that
mm,
became my life. It was my medicine. It was my form of healing, you could say.
mm,
And I was naturally gifted thanks to my mom, because she is so talented as an artist. She's been in theater,
mm,
music, dancing, everything.
wow.
And my biggest joy was to see her happy,
Mm,
or do something that really makes her happy or connect to her roots.
mm,
So I always had hope that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to grow, shine out into doing what I love doing, and make other people happy with it. And then probably one day just get my mom out of there. Probably I must have just manifested that at a very young age out of frustration. But
mm,
kismat sabki alag alag kahani hoti hai. So I think the calling came too early,
mm,
then earlier than expected, where uh, the time my grandfather passed away, things got very critical at home and out of hand.
mm,
And the abuse got so harsh, and I realized my grandmother was trying to get rid of us.
Mm.
So there was a point where I see my father choking my mom, and I had to kind of intervene to stop him. And that's exactly when that was the biggest turning point of my life, you would say, where
Mm.
he damaged me brutally, beating me up, and I had a severe cervical injury
Mm.
with a whiplash that I couldn't move, and I was semi-paralyzed, neck down. So I think that's when everything, like in that very second, you just go numb and everything was blank on the screen.
Mm.
I think I even lost my consciousness for a while.
Mm.
So I didn't know if there's anything left after that.
Mm.
To be able to get out of my home was also a task, and
Ah.
because there was nobody with my mom, we
Mm.
couldn't even kind of charge
Mm.
or a case or file a complaint against it, because everybody was so afraid. And this was another big reality check, or the point that stuck with me for life, that
Mm.
there's a certain societal construct which is extremely wrong. Because when your own family is afraid to complain against a man who is literally like destroying your daughter's life and you do nothing about it,
Mm.
there's something terribly wrong with a certain
कहीं से
ecosystem that's
गलती
there.
है। हुँ,
मतलब हमें नहीं पढ़ना है बीच में, या नाम खराब होना होगा, इज्जत का सवाल है.
हुँ,
Everything, all the drama just came in front of me, and I had so many questions that were brimming out of anger.
हुँ,
So obviously, out of no choice, somehow I did get treated.
हुँ,
And before even asking the doctor, when can I start walking again? Obviously, my first question was, when can I dance again? Or if I can dance again or not? Because there was this inside core voice screaming out that it's the end. It's the
हुँ,
end of everything, that my
हुँ,
life is done. And I was devastated. It
हुँ,
was like my wings were just stripped off my back
हुँ,
before even flying out. So, yeah, I spent a few months stuck like a vegetable on bed,
हुँ,
flat for months at my uncle's place or my mom's place. And even they were trying to eagerly wait, when can I recover and just, get out of here, because my nana was afraid, oh, we can't bear with this thing. It felt like a burden. So that's when I started feeling a very negative um, bit of urge that I needed to somehow get off on my feet and probably get out of here, because I don't think anybody really cares or wants us to
हुँ,
even be around.
हुँ,
And I prayed, I sincerely prayed, because I was in my final year of college. I had not even done with my graduation when this happened.
हुँ,
And I knew my exams were nearing, and I literally kept crying in pain. And like, I know, of course, I had to be strong. And luckily, I had somebody or some miracle that happened in my life to constantly keep me motivated. And my
हुँ,
mother told me, I'm there, no matter what, we're gonna be there for each other. And she prayed and she prayed like I think we've never done that before,
हुँ,
to just get out of this mess. And she said, finish what you started. And
हुँ,
I somehow did get up on my feet, and I finished giving my exams, and I got out of there. So I had to leave my home. And of course, because of the kind of impression that was being created around, when
हुँ,
it was no fault of ours, it's
हुँ,
very easy to be projected in a wrong manner. So
हुँ,
मतलब
एब्सोल्युटली।
बदनामी करना या लोगों को बोलने के लिए तो बहुत कुछ होता है.
हुँ,
And that's what started happening. And because we extremely are, we were very naive and very, very pious, and we were very clear of
हुँ,
being we had the value of our own self-respect.
हुँ,
And because we did not want to do something that would hurt anybody's intentions,
हुँ,
we left home without even our belongings. So I was homeless, just
हुँ,
like that. Me and mom walked out of the house, and the rest is a long, long journey of trials and errors, and burning down myself to ashes and coming back. And I was at this place where somebody I considered my guru, or someone who really helped me, being a stranger in another corner of the country,
हुँ,
just kind of supported us to help us out for some time, to find some, like, I lived like a refuge for that long.
हुँ,
And I knew that I'm never coming back to the city for what it's given me.
हुँ,
But destiny has its own way. जैसे पांडवों को जाके फिर वापस आना पड़ा था महाभारत के लिए. I
हुँ,
think I had to play the same role,
हुँ,
and we had to come and fight for our justice.
हुँ,
And we definitely did. That too
हुँ,
for an extremely long time, 4 years in court.
कोर्ट में।
Uh, yeah, and that too, I had to come back with no money and no shelter. So everything was very difficult to prove
हुँ,
and fight for it from one side end. So there were so many areas we were being pressured. When we came back, everybody suddenly started coming out of nowhere, who were not there when we really needed them. in order to suffice that we should listen and forgive my father and get back, because
Mm.
or else he would be in trouble.
Mm.
So that was a hard one, and because I needed shelter, I needed the money or something to support me
Absolutely.
to be there to fight.
Mm.
बॉम्बे में रह के भी कहाँ पे करेंगे, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we had to go through a mutual way to go about it. But again, we were obviously being cheated because power of money, the power of social presence. My father tried to have the upper hand at everything.
Mm.
But I think karma is something I truly believe in. It
Mm.
comes back.
Absolutely.
So after having to re-appeal into the court and everything, because before even giving us our rights or getting our belongings back, he got married again.
Mm.
So we had to go for a very, very long stride of fighting and trying to prove things. He was trying to buy off my lawyer who was trying to support us. So
Mm.
बहुत कुछ हुआ, the usual dramas that people go through.
Mm.
And yeah, I think at the end, we just peacefully wanted what we truly deserve to survive. I didn't want any extra part of his wealth or property,
Mm.
because जो गलत तरीके से अब जो negativity से कमाया जाता है, or it's just that holds that bitter energy of somebody. I never wanted it. So I was like, I need my peace. I think I was seeing mom go through physical issues for the longest time, because back home when she was there, I grew up watching her in so much pain, and nobody would even get her a glass of water when she's sick.
Mm.
And that's how I also learned to cook at the age of 12 when she was bedridden.
Mm.
So I absolutely thank her for that now, because I'm acing it now. But yeah, I mean, circumstances did always have a disadvantage, but for me, I look at it as a gift or a boon for my end, because it just made me so strong. And going through all these circumstances, battles, losing what you love most,
Mm.
um, you see that wherever you're attaching yourself, it's always the hardest part to get over it.
Mm.
So I started learning how to just accept things the way they came to me, the way they
Mm.
flowed. And after my cervical injury, of course, I never got the right treatment because I left home right after my college.
Mm.
I faced a lot of cervical spasm attacks. Uh,
Mm.
Therapy या कुछ करने के लिए पैसे तक नहीं थे, so I had too many things on my head, and more importantly, my mom was getting critical day by day. I
Mm.
didn't have money, so there have been times where I've literally begged and asked people for help
Mm.
just to get her medicines and get her treatment done somehow.
Mm.
So it was a long journey of seeing her touch her deathbed multiple times and come back. But and yeah, there was this last time. There's one moment I know I clearly remember when I had to come back to the city when she was bedridden. She told me, "This time, Vayu, I don't think I can come back. All this while I've escaped, but I don't think this time I can come back. You should start getting ready to be on your own."
Mm.
That is when I think the floor just like swept off my feet, and I didn't know where I was, because I was shaken, because I felt like I'm not ready yet to
Mm.
be on
But you
my
have.
own, because I don't have anything anybody else in life. Because
Mm.
जब आपका social status change हो जाता है,
Mm.
when
Oh.
things transition, you start seeing transition and change around you.
Mm.
When you're in the worst period of your time, by default, there's nobody standing around you.
Mm.
Although there are thousands of people who will always be around you when everything is right.
Mm.
For me, I was a very jovial, very social person.
Mm.
I was always surrounded by people. I'm always active in curricular activities in college, dancing, making people move from here to there. So there was not a time that I wouldn't have people around me, but also I saw myself alone every time.
Wow.
Not a single person even knew what I went through during college days, until the
Oh.
time when, for the first time, my story was featured on Humans of Bombay.
Wow.
So these things taught me so much about life. More importantly, it taught me so much about human mentality, of
Mm.
how society operates, of how this wrong construct was developed, how we were deliberately pushed into limited belief systems,
Mm.
and how we still continue to drag it along.
Mm.
And that's exactly the time where even I became so accepting of the fact that I had to forgive my father, because
Mm.
अगर एक तरीके से देखने जाए तो it's not even his fault, because he was raised that way.
Mm.
And this is something I learned during my process of healing,
Mm.
that जिसके पास जो होता है वो वही देता है, right? So I think my father was never taught how to love or respect women. What else would he have to give,
Mm. Mm.
no
It's
matter
a
how much I
big
tried?
thing you said right now, because uh, the story that जो आपकी ये story है, I don't know, it's heart-wrenching. When I'm just listening, I don't even know what I'm going through. But when you said you felt completely alone, I think the only thing you had with you was self-respect. And you and your mom, both of you had that. And oh, very, very difficult journey, to say the least, but you've come out so strong out of it. You are, and especially you've let go of things, and that's why I guess you're a free person now. Society
Absolutely.
has never been on the side of people who fight, and especially women, because survivors are judged for the actions they
Absolutely.
take.
Yeah. Been there.
Yes, so
Shosha is a creative Indian restaurant located in the heart of Silicon Valley. Shosha is a woman-owned business that serves traditional Indian flavors assimilated with molecular gastronomy techniques. The best Indian bar with happy hours in the Bay Area serves handcrafted drinks inspired by flavors from India with modern craft cocktails that are presented in unique ways. Shosha is a modern take on traditional Indian cuisine. We specialize in corporate luncheon, anniversary celebrations, birthday parties, and catering. Do check us out for a memorable modern Indian dining experience. Shosha is located at 141 South Murphy Avenue in Sunnyvale, California.